Can you talk to us about when Blackwater popped up on your radar? Who did you know some people in it? When exactly?
I did, Pete. What happened was in 2003, I had a friend of mine who was a Navy SEAL, career soldier. Actually went in around the same time as me. I knew him back then. He'd come home, and he invited me to lunch, and he told me what he was doing, and he told me that he was also on a bit of a recruiting mission.
Okay.
And he had mentioned the company he worked for, and it was Blackwater, and he was living down in the Virginia area, close to their training facility. So he told me what I had to do to apply. And, I didn't think much of it at first, but I went to their website, I did some research, and I kind of liked what I saw. And I started out doing it as a dare. I'm like, all right, I'd like to go down and try the training, see how I fare against guys of my ability and my experience and background. Went to their training, a 10-day training.
It was almost to see where you stand. You wanted to see.
That's what it was.
Okay.
And it was free.
Okay.
So, and you can get to shoot all you want. But anyways, we went down there and I trained for 10 days, and they had a deployment schedule set up for me after I completed the course, which is a rigorous course. It's a weeding out course.
Sure.
Once I completed it, they set up a deployment schedule for me. Within a month, I was deployed to the Middle East.
There's sovereign borders. The United States, without the okay of Pakistan, can't go. I know we have drone missiles and Hellfire missiles that have been shot into their territory, but Blackwater doesn't really have any obligations or restraints that couldn't let them go over the border. I don't believe. I mean, we know the hideouts, we know the sanctuaries. What's not to have 700, 800 of you go in?
Right. Well, remember, we have an embassy there. We have an American presence there in Pakistan. So, I mean, that's true. That's a good statement, and that's a possibility. I don't know who's there, if anybody is there, but
the experts.
Can we actually go over there and fight Al Qaeda coming across the border? No, that's not what we do. Again,
that would be getting into mercenary business.
Exactly, and we're not a PMI company. Private military company it does stuff like that. In other words, they're a war-fighting company, and you hire them, such as what happened in Sierra Leone in '95 with a PMI company called Executive Outcomes. Okay, they were hired to go in and stabilize the country. No. Well, a few were Americans, but they were Brits, South Africans. It was a kind of a collective group.
Just properly trained soldiers.
Right. Again, we're protective security. Okay, we do protection services. All right, that's what we do. We don't hunt Al Qaeda. We don't set up ambushes, do search and destroy, anything like that. That's out of our realm.
Do you have the ammunition and the arm power?
And that's the other thing, we don't. We only are set up for defensive operations, for defensive posture. In other words, if we get hit, if there's contact, okay, all we can do is defend ourselves, defend our principle, and get away from the contact or the threat.
At least that the public are going to know off the, in generals, the incident in Haditha, an individual was shot while he was driving. Basically, the weight of his body went up against the steering wheel. His car continued to go towards a convoy that was escorting a diplomat from the United States, Department of State, I believe. And in the end, 17 Iraqis were left dead. Lots of questions surrounding the whole deal. The next day, Iraq revoked Blackwater's right to be in the country, but within weeks they were back, and one of their biggest ever contracts was signed to stay for, I believe, 5 more year deal in Iraq.
Right, that is one of the bigger contracts, and they had that major incident that made the news, and again, that's still under investigation, so it's hard for me to comment on it. I don't know too many of the details on it. Mostly just what I read, just like yourself.
Have you talked or heard about any of the guys from Blackwater?
I don't know any guys that were on that detail specifically. No.
Okay.
I've gotten some hearsay from guys who knew guys, friend of a friend, but even that's not credible to me.
Okay.
So it is still under investigation, and from what I understand, they've already resolved some issues. And one is that they've got I don't know if it's FBI people,
FBI probe, but
Department of State people that are riding along with the mobile teams now.
Right, they want to put in, I believe, recorders, if not cameras, on the vehicles,
like a police department would. Just to verify.
They want to hear what's being said over the CB radios. I think that might be recorded.
That's right.
Now.
So they've certainly taken the right measures to overcome problems like this. But as far as what actually happened, kind of a he said, she said, I really wouldn't be able to comment.
Basically, the government pays Blackwater $1,200 per day per soldier, which is 6 times the rate of what a mid-range, not a mid-range, but a 23-year-old soldier would be getting in the Army and the Navy.
Let's put this into perspective as well. Say an E4 in the Army, with benefits and the pay that he makes. And now keep in mind, the government or the taxpayer has been estimated that each soldier is paid about $19,500, or it costs the government and the taxpayers $19,500 per month per man. That's at an E4 level. That's probably mid-range for the Army. With Blackwater, we can do the same job, the same deployments or the same areas for $15,000. Okay. So if you do the math, it's economically favorable to send a Blackwater guy out versus one military man. Now that's a military at that cost. You're talking about training, feeding, his pay, his benefits package, upwards of $20,000 a month per man per month. And we can do it for $15,000.
But at $1,200 a month, we'll say that's accurate.
That's not accurate. That may
be.
No,
I'm saying not that you're going to pocket, but Blackwater's taking in.
That's I'm not sure exactly on the numbers.
$445,000 per soldier. If you do 1,200 times a year.
But say we get half of that, 1,200. That's our rate. Say $600 a day. That puts us at around $17,000, $18,000. Still cheaper to send us in than a military. And right now, with the military being spread thin,
that's basically going to be the belief. That's the reason why professionals are being sourced instead of our.
Yeah, and it keeps them in their combat arms roles. Let us do the security. We're well equipped with our experience, discipline, and backgrounds and weapons and tactics to do security.
And I'm also going to go out and say this. I might be criticized for saying this, but I don't even know if I necessarily want taxpayer money escorting ExxonMobil and private sector gas companies through the desert. I think that's more appropriate for a private contractor to be paid by a private company.
And that's how they do. I mean, they do get paid through Exxon. And the government doesn't pay for every service that we provide, just depending on who we're doing the service for. 20 years in the military, making, at the time, not very good pay. I don't think I ever made more than $28,000 a year. With the responsibilities I had, which were enormous. I make a bad decision and somebody dies. That's a tremendous responsibility. So, I was getting paid the pay, and it was more the benefits back then. I raised a family. My kids were born in the military and all that. Now you get into something like this, and you say, "Well, geez, you're making all that pay." Well, I hate to say it, but I think we deserve it. I really do.
You're in a kill zone,
all the hardship we've faced in our careers. And now we've given this opportunity where we can use our skills that we acquired all those years and our experience and our training, and put it to good use for this country. And that's what it's all about.
With an Obama presidency, would that be good for Blackwater?
I just don't know.
You don't want to speculate?
I don't even want to touch that. George Bush has certainly been good for Blackwater. The Republicans have been good for Blackwater.
I know Eric Prince's family lifetime has donated $2.4 million to the Republican Party. He was a intern for George Bush's father in the 90s.
Right, I read that in Bush. Scahill's book. Right, that's all in there. I don't know how much of it is facts. I'm assuming some of it is. But yeah, I mean, he's done his part. He's a Christian man, and all about Christian values, and there's a sense of patriotism with our guys, and we still have that,
I don't think soldiers lose that zeal.
You're never going to lose it. Absolutely not. Never. So, again, whatever I can do to contribute, I'm not getting any younger, so I got to do it now,
Sure.
But most of our guys are fit mentally and physically,